What up, Road to the Pros, week 21. Here we are, man, and my name is Jim Schultz, for those of you that might be tuning in for the first time, and I'm training to turn pro in the fall. So I've been doing this Road to the Pros series to kind of chronicle my journey along the way and kind of try to give you guys some little nuggets and little tips that you can use in your own training, along the way too. And so if this is your first time checking us out, hey man, thanks for joining in. If you are a loyal viewer, then hey, I thank you guys so much too. So what I want to talk about here today is I want to talk about creatine while cutting. Like, should you take creatine while you are on a cutting diet? And then we'll talk about my progress up to date, which I am super frustrated with. And so that should be an interesting discussion. But let's talk about the creatine aspect first. And so it's really common to feel like you shouldn't take creatine while you're cutting, right? It's really, I hear this a lot that, man, I'm trying to get leaner. I'm trying to cut down. I'm not going to take any creatine because that's just going to make me hold water. I'm not going to take any creatine because that's just going to make me feel bloated. That's just going to make me look puffy. That's just going to have me move in the opposite direction from the direction I'm trying to move. And it makes sense, right? If you think about it at least a little bit, it definitely makes sense, right? Creatine, by its very nature, without getting into the actual physiological and biological things that are happening in your body, let's just kind of get right to the conclusion. Creatine is going to, let's say, encourage or possibly force your body to hold water. So you are going to be holding water. But the truth of it is you're not going to feel bloated. You're not going to feel puffy. You're not going to look puffy. You're actually going to look a lot better. And the reason why is when people hear the term holding water, they naturally think of the water like underneath your skin, right? Like that subcutaneous water that does make you look puffy, that does make you look really soft, right? Like when you go out to, your favorite Mexican restaurant and you just have a ton of chips and guacamole and like really highly salty foods, that can make you hold water. And that's holding water underneath your skin. So it's basically, kind of blurring out any definition and any of, the musculature that you might have on your frame. But when it comes to creatine, what creatine actually does is it actually pulls water into your muscles. It actually pulls water, inside of, it pulls water into the cellular level inside of your muscles. And so it's going to keep your muscles full. It's going to keep your muscles hydrated. And so it's actually going to leave your muscles looking a lot better. And that's not even to mention the performance aspects of creatine, right? I mean, we could spend 25, 30 minutes on just the performance aspects of creatine. So let's try to do it in 30 seconds. Creatine is basically going to allow your body to produce more ATP. And ATP is a primary energy source, if not the primary energy source of your body. So when you're in the gym and you're looking to do work, right? You're looking to bench press or squat or do sprints or do anything, your body's looking for energy to do those activities. And so by producing more ATP, you have more energy readily available for your body to use. And so by supplementing with creatine, you have more ATP at the ready for your body to use. And so basically, it's going to leave you performing better. You're going to be faster. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be able to work out longer. Like it's literally, all the boxes across the board are checked. Man, all the T's are crossed. All the I's are dotted. Creatine is like a slam dunk no-brainer. And that's not to mention, it is like dirt cheap. Like creatine, like micronized creatine, which is all you need. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need any bells and whistles. Don't listen to the guy at GNC. Don't listen to the ads on the internet. Listen to me, random guy on the internet. You only need micronized creatine. It's like 10, maybe $20 for an entire jug that's going to last you months and months and months. So if you are cutting, if you are looking to get lean for the summer, right? I try to focus most of my content around fat loss because I feel like not only is that going to appeal to a lot of people, but it's the one thing that I feel like I have the most experience with. And so when it comes to losing fat, when it comes to getting super lean, you should be taking creatine all the way through. You females too, you should be taking creatine. Now, I know you probably don't want to because you're like, Jim, I don't care if it's inside the muscle or not. I don't want to hold any water. I want to be bone dry. because I don't know if you know this, but every month I kind of have to battle, these cyclical changes inside of my own body. Like, yeah, I don't know that on a level that you know that, but I am somewhat aware, hashtag married 10 years, double hashtag 2 children. And so I'm somewhat aware of the process. But I feel you, man. The truth, though, is if fitness is serious to you, male or female, you should be supplementing with creatine, especially if you're trying to get lean. Like, let's go ahead and turn this into a total 180, right? Forget about, you should maybe take it if you're getting lean. No. If you're trying to get lean, you must be taking creatine. And you know why? Because if you're trying to get lean, what does that mean? Let me say it for the 97th time in the last 6 videos I've done. You need to be in a caloric deficit. You already know this. You need to be in a caloric deficit. So what's going to happen? You're going to potentially realize a metabolic slowdown. You're going to potentially realize some, adverse hormonal changes inside of your body. Well, what is one of the best ways to combat against that? Let me say this for the 55th time in the last 6 videos. You need to focus on building muscle. Well, what is one of the ways that you can focus on building muscle? You can supplement with creatine for all the reasons that I just mentioned. So go scoop yourself up some creatine. Maybe I'll link down into the description to the creatine that I think would probably be a good choice for you. I've been taking a creatine for a while. I'm honestly not that impressed with it. It's by Body Tech. It's just the super cheap off-brand vitamin shop brand that you can just get at the store, and it's really, really cheap. I thought it was probably okay, but I've taken some of their other supplements, Body Tech, and I'm pretty convinced that the other supplements were not working as effectively as some of the other brands I was using for that supplement. Specifically, I'm talking about beta-alanine. And so now it's having me question the effectiveness of the creatine of the Body Tech brand too. So that's probably not one that I would recommend. It's the one I'm taking now, and you better believe I'm going to finish the jug. But once the jug is done, I'm going to look to scoop something else up. So maybe I'll link down to 1 or 2 of the ones I'm looking at that would probably be decent based on my history with that brand. And so take your creatine if you're cutting, especially if you're cutting. So let's talk about my lack of progress right now. Oh, hey, Sean, what's going on, man? So as a beginner starting out, would taking creatine be helpful? Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So if I were you, I would absolutely be supplementing with creatine. Thanks for checking us out, too, and dropping that comment down there. Definitely start taking creatine. There's just no reason not to. Creatine is, first of all, it's naturally occurring in your body. So that's the first thing. It's already in there. Like, you're not trying to add something extraneously to your body that's not there. And so that's the first thing to understand. The second thing is creatine is actually in some of the foods that we eat. Like, a lot of red meat has creatine. And there are some other foods that have creatine. The problem is there's typically a pretty low dose of creatine inside of the foods that we eat. And depending on how you actually cook the foods, it could lead to an even lower dose of creatine that comes into your body. So supplementing with creatine is really a no-brainer. So Sean, I would definitely do that, man. I'll drop a link into the description. Give me 10 minutes after this video is over, and I'll get one down there, and you can check it out and, see if that makes sense for you. And I'll make sure that it's, like I said, from a brand that I trust, that I've used before. Again, don't use Body Tech because I'm just not sure. It's dirt cheap, but I don't know that it's worth it. So that's a great question, man. I really hope that helped you out. But if you guys have other questions while you're watching live, the few of you that are tuning in right now, let me know. Because, this is all about you guys, so just let me know. But in the meantime, let's talk about my lack of progress, and let's talk about my frustration. So I'm 21 weeks in right now, and when I look at my chart of where I projected myself to be at this time, I thought I would be down about 30 pounds, about 28 or 29 pounds at this point. And I'm only down 17. I am at 192.6. My low point last week was 192.6. My low point this week, 192.6. So I had another scratch week, and I am so freaking frustrated just because I only have myself to blame. So last weekend was my birthday. So if you watched the Road to the Pros last weekend, you saw that it was my birthday. And so if you missed it, go back and check it out. It's, I think, worthwhile. We talked about doing legs and HIIT cardio together, which is something I'm experimenting with this cycle. But it was my birthday. So what do you do when it's your birthday? You go out to dinner. So I went out to dinner, and honestly, I didn't do a bad job. I didn't do a bad job at all. But I did have some foods that were pretty rich. So, for example, one of the things we had was bacon-wrapped dates. Now, bacon-wrapped dates are delicious. There's no problem with bacon-wrapped dates. You just have to be aware that you're probably ingesting a pretty high number of fat grams in that meal, which is going to push your total calories pretty high. So when I went back to estimate my macros, I don't think I was as diligent as I should have been with my estimates. I think I was a little bit low on my estimates. And so as a result, the whole week long, I was playing catch up. And then there were also a couple of nights early in the week when I had a little bit too much food. And so not a ton, but an extra, 30, 40, 50 grams of carbohydrates each night. And that just throws me off, man. It throws me off the rest of the week. So as the week was going on and I was just hanging around 193, I was just like, oh man, am I going to get to 192? Am I going to break a new low? And turns out this morning I didn't break a new low. I'm still at 192.6. And so I'll get to your comment here in a second there, Jay. But yeah, it's super frustrating. But I only have myself to blame. And it doesn't mean that you can't eat out. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that when you eat out, you just have to make good choices. And you just have to make better choices. And you have to be more accurate and more diligent with your tracking. And so, yeah, Sean, you got it, man. Absolutely. Thanks for checking us out, dude. I really appreciate that so much. So here's what this means moving forward. Playtime is over, man. Like, playtime is absolutely over. Like, I now, one of the things, if you watch the Road to the Pro series, we actually started on Facebook for like the first 16 episodes or so, and we've migrated over to YouTube. So if you go all the way over to the Facebook page, you can find all the old Road to the Pros episodes. And then we've got, the last few on here. You'll see I kept talking about how things are good, I'm moving so slow. Things are good, I'm moving so slow. I have so much room to cut. Well, now it's time for me to cash in some of those chips. Like, I've been stockpiling all these chips to, leave myself ammunition for when I need to cut more seriously. Well, the time to cut more seriously is now. The time to cut more seriously is, oh, thank you, man. The time to cut more seriously is absolutely right now. And so I am going to make a fairly aggressive cut with my macros this week. I just started doing list cardio last week. I did 2 30-minute sessions. I'll do 2 30-minute sessions again this week. That's on top of 3 HIIT sessions every week. And the HIIT sessions are very short. I'm usually done within 12 minutes, sometimes only 10. And so it's still not a ton of cardio, but the list is going to help to bleed off some extra calories. It's going to help to really keep, the deficit rolling forward. But I'm going to make a significant cut to my macros. I'm probably going to cut my carbs by about 25 or 30 a day, which would take me down from I'm averaging about 135, 140. I'll go down to about 110-ish. And then my fat grams right now are about 65. I'll probably go down to about 60. So that's going to be a pretty significant cut across the board. Because when I think about this, and I'm going to get to your question there, Jay. When I think about this, and I think about how far I know I can go, how much I can push, and what I know I'm capable of because of what I did in 2017, I got down to the end of prep in 2017, and I was on some straight up bikini girl macros, man. Like, straight up. Like, I was not eating anything. But I was so motivated, and I was so driven that I didn't even care. For the last 3-4 weeks, I didn't even care at all. So I know I have that in me. Like, I know that when this thing gets down to the end and I'm even leaner than I was in 2017, I'm going to be so motivated. I'm going to be like, yeah, I don't care. I don't need to eat for 4 days. Doesn't even matter. Like, I couldn't care less. Now, obviously, I'm exaggerating. It'll never get that bad. But I mean, when you're eating 30, 40, 50 carbs a day for several days in a row, that's not a lot of fuel. And so that can be kind of tricky. So let me see if I can pull up your question here, Jay, because you had something. Let's see here. Yeah, so isn't there a creatine loading phase? Yeah, man, I got you. So a creatine loading phase, that's a great question. And the answer is yes, there is. Or I guess a better answer would be yes, there can be. So when it comes to creatine loading, here's the basic idea. If you want your body to become saturated with creatine, like right away, then you should load. Now, the traditional dose for creatine is about 5 grams per day. That's kind of your traditional maintenance dose. If you start supplementing with 5 grams per day, then in about 3 to 4 weeks, your body will be saturated with creatine. You will have reached full saturation levels. You will have, given your system all that it needs from a creatine standpoint to start to extract all the benefits from creatine. If you want to load, you can actually start the first 5 or 6 or 7 days, maybe the first week, and take about 20 grams a day. So all you're basically doing is you're accelerating the process of saturation, right? You're just fast forwarding, the whole thing to where instead of it being 4 weeks at 5 grams a day, it's 1 week at 20 grams a day. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no adverse side effects. You just probably want to make sure that you're drinking a ton of water because otherwise you might feel some cramping and you might actually feel a little bit bloated. But if your water intake is on point, like if you're at a gallon or higher, you're probably absolutely fine. Then you'll start to realize the benefits of creatine really quickly, like within that first week. And so Should you do one or the other? It's really up to you. I personally, I don't like to load. I don't really have a good reason why necessarily. I don't like to do anything in my life like with a whole ton of speed. At least not now that I'm in my late 30s. When I was in my early 20s and my mid 20s, I did everything fast, right? And I made a ton of mistakes. I just like a more gradual process with everything. With training and supplementation and nutrition and just all that, and even other things in my life. Like, obviously, my profession, well, I say obviously, you guys might not know this, but my actual profession is in finance. And so when it comes to finance and investments and trading and stuff, I also like to do things kind of gradually. And so, I don't know, Jay, I hope that kind of helps you out, man, gives you something to think about in terms of whether or not you should load yourself. You absolutely can if you want to, but it's not a requirement or anything like that. So that's it, man. If you guys got any last second questions, go ahead and drop them in there. Is there a best time to take creatine? Last second question. Good job, man. Good question. The answer is no. It doesn't matter. There was one random research paper that was done. The year of it is escaping me in the moment. There was one random research paper that was done that showed there's a benefit to taking it after your workout, but the consensus in the research, I'm a young man, well thank you, man. The consensus in the research community, there's actually several papers that show it doesn't matter. Any time of the day is fine. And so just make sure you take it. That's the most important thing, right? Kind of settle into a routine, maybe do it with your morning vitamins or whatever. That's what I personally do because I remember to take it in the morning. So I don't miss doses. I don't miss days. And so again, once your body becomes saturated, whether it's a week or 4 weeks, it's not going to make a difference. So I hope that helps, man. You're absolutely welcome. So yeah, I think that's probably it. Hey, if you guys haven't already subscribed to the channel, if you want to subscribe, that would help me out a ton. Also, if you are focused on fat loss, definitely, drop down to the description below. I have a free cardio plan, and I also have the fat loss formula if you don't have that guy yet. And so they're both totally free, and they'll give you some structure, man. They'll give you a nice strategy for either cardio or just fat loss in general. Kind of give you some tips and tricks and insights that maybe you haven't considered before. So give those guys a look. They're already linked down in the description, and I'll link some creatine down there, like I said, in the next few minutes. And I think that's it, man. Road to the Pros week 21. I hope that for week 22, next Saturday at 2:30, we will have more promising results to report. We'll have more progress to report, but we will see, man. We're going to cut the macros, and we're going to, not do a ton with the cardio this week, but one of these weeks, man, we'll start moving forward. And so hopefully that week is this week. So I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys next week.